Legacy of a King, a legacy series novel by Charlene Sponsel. Chapter 6, Growing Up, 33rd Day of Winter 446. The unfamiliar tasks and trainings of would-be sovereignty added to the strangeness of living in the castle, but after a season in a Longy, my routine became normal. I ate alone, except when I convinced the cook to allow my secret interference to plan a family affair. Sitak arranged for me to learn how to ride and manage a house. Had he bothered to ask, I would have told him I was already proficient in embroidery and gardening, but he didn't, so I didn't correct him. Despite having hated lessons back home, I went to all of them, looking forward to Cam and Kesma's companionship. Our instructor's perspective could intrigue me, but more often was too serious to hold my attention. He taught us of harvest celebrations around Hanukkah, starting with the North's herb feast and ending with the fruit festivals of the coast. But he skipped how they celebrated, and instead quizzed us on what each titleship produced and how much they must harvest to feed a nation. "We have a festival back home," I said as I stared out Kesma's window, after the instructor left, watching rain pour from clouds that painted my world a gloomy gray. Even Kesma's cheerful room of yellow flowers did nothing to lift my mood. "What is it like?" Kesma asked. Had lessons been held in Cam's room, and he had asked, I would have assumed he was being polite, hoping for a simple answer like fun or nice, so he could shoo me out. Then I would have lingered too long just to annoy him. But I needn't question Kesma's sincerity. First we vote for the festival king and queen from those between 10 and 15. Then they host the last ball of the cycle. I covered my mouth as my smile spread. As a couple. In costumes decorated with leaves, my face burned. "Really?" Kesma asked. "Seems out of character. West Foresters are prudes," Cam chimed in, and I pursed my lips to hold back a retort. I was going to say strict. They had a train of wagons through the farms to pick up attendees. Then there's food and games, dancing and face painting, and there's always a skit. "About what?" Cam asked, his interest piqued. "Oh, any old story. Like the hairy mountain creatures that cause avalanches with their enormous feet and eat children and drunkards." "Eating children?" Cam scoffed at the story. "Only the bad ones," I said pointedly. "And at the end of the festival, we float our gourd lanterns down the river and exchange presents." "You farm kids and your fun," he said, as he left. I wish you could see it. There's a kind of sad beauty to it. "What do you mean?" "It is a celebration of crops and children coming to maturity. But as candidates, it marks the end of our childhoods." "It seems fitting for me right now. I'm sure I would love it," Kesma said, a hand on my shoulder. "Enough about me." I gave her a half-hearted smile. "By next harvest, you'll be entitled and mated. Speaking of, I have an appointment today for my new wardrobe as the Duchess of Envasil. Come by tomorrow for lunch, and I will tell you all about it." I nodded and left her as the tall seamstress with blue shading entered her drawing room. "Was that an islander?" I asked my guard, eyes wide. He smiled and nodded. I bit my bottom lip. "I have to tell Cam." My guard no longer ran after me once he realized I did it often and knew my way, but he was never far behind either. "Cam!" I shouted, knocking on the door. "I just left. What could be so important? Did you see her?" "Who?" "The island seamstress," I said, letting myself inside. "You're such a child." "I'm a cycle younger than you. You're just jealous that I still know how to have fun." "I can have fun." Cam backed me against the bookshelf. Looking down at me, he reached up and brought down a book. "Here." He dropped the leather-bound monster about the islands in my hands. "Have you ever been?" "One day. That's my kind of fun." He pointed at the book. "Do you want to play Island Explorers?" "It's raining." "We can play here. Your room will be our ship, and the castle is a strange island. Look, there's an islander now." I pointed at my guard, taking up his post outside the room. "You know, islanders wear little." Cam took off his shoes and socks and untucked his tunic, then cocked his head at me. "Aren't you playing?" I glared at him and slammed the door behind me as I left. But I could hear his laugh in the corridor. "Do you think I'm silly?" I asked my guard. "When did you last play pretend?" "In West Elder." "Then no, I think you are homesick." I spent the rest of the day in my room, perusing the island book. Strange pressed leaves and drawings lay between its pages. Cam's shocking claim of how little clothes they wore proved true, and equally shocking was the gall Cam had to draw them that way. Winter continued, and the cycle came to a close. Even though Tally had no interest in celebrating, Belia said she wouldn't tarnish her mother's memory by foregoing the party. Families from all over Conica attended, but not mine. The elderman deemed it too soon to disrupt my breaking in, and expected me to play my part as his ward, standing with him and his son, who was home from his commission for the holiday. Tally did not attend, despite my coaxing, leaving 2 empty seats at the table and 1 candle lit for Varin. Flickering remembrances of those lost lit many meals. Each family broke open their loaf of bread to see what fortune the new cycle held for them. An Arinan token for prosperity, a ring for unions, an egg for fertility. Belia tore theirs in half and found an arrow, Tally's arrow, the symbol for moving forward. Sitek's contained a spider token. "This must be for you," he said, dropping it in my hand and clapping over my good fortune. As a woman, it represented patience and balance. For a man, it was often linked with betrayal. Cam ran off with his cousin as soon as he fulfilled his duties. I stayed at my place beside the elderman, watching the others leave in favor of the company of their friends. Tears stung, because I had none, but I blinked them away in time to see Kesma coming to save me. "You don't want me tagging along," I argued. "I will take you over the Duke of Envasil." She squeezed my hand and led me to where those of us caught between childhood and adult responsibilities gathered. There we played games and danced until just before the cycle ended, when we were to return to our respective families. Belia directed her guest to raise a glass to the new cycle, but a Vinland boy caught my attention by raising his to me, the one who stepped on my feet and invited me to his entitlement to prove he was who he claimed. I had missed it in order to attend Varin's interment, and now he was a man. How strange. "Are you coming?" Cam shouted from the edge of the hedge maze. I returned the gesture, despite not liking the taste of wine, and did my best to follow Cam in a ladylike fashion, not wanting the master of Cantonac to think badly of me. By the time preparations were underway for Kesma's entitlement, I had learned that pretense with Tali was a waste of time. He had no expectations I would be what Sitek wanted. Being relieved of the burden, my anxiety faded, and I enjoyed our visits. Slowly, Tali returned to his normal routines, and his children, with little help from me, as Sitek often pointed out. Kesma's frantic schedule kept her from many of Cam's and my escapades, but she tried to relish her last season with us. When I arrived in Cam's drawing room for the first lesson of the fall, I found it decorated with paper leaves and baskets of gourds. Cam bowed, wearing a fur-trimmed mantle he must have borrowed from his father over a Westfall ensemble. Pinned on the front of the fancy jerkin was a large leaf, and Kesma held a lavish matching gown. "What's going on?" "It is the Westfall Harvest Festival. Come on, I'll help you don it," Kesma said. "Me? No, you should be the queen." "It's bad enough I must dance with my sister for lessons. I'm not pretending she's my mate," Cam said. "Well, soon you'll have only me to dance with, and will wish Kesma was here to save you." "We voted, my queen." Kesma helped me into the gown and let down my hair. My face flushed in the mirror. "I can't imagine traipsing in front of a town this way." "You look beautiful. Wait till you see what we have planned." Cam's desk overflowed with Westfall treats. I spotted my favorite right away and popped it in my mouth, melting as I savored the thick cream and berries on the buttery crust. "Ready for our parade, my queen?" Cam laughed. I eyed him with distrust. "That hurts." He clapped his hands, and Kesma opened the door where one of the large kitchen trolleys waited. Cam leaned over, making his hands into a step. "My queen, your people await." "This is silly," I said, but placed a foot in his hands and alighted onto my wagon. Cam sat beside me. "Onward through the fields." Mia and Kesma's handmaid pushed us down the hall, and Cam called out greetings to every servant we passed. "Faster!" The trolley lurched forward. I screeched, and Cam wrapped an arm around me to steady me. "Come on, this was your idea," he said to my silent waves. "It most certainly was not," I said, joining his act anyway as we rode back to his quarters. A dance, my queen? Cam extended his hand, helping me from the trolley. There's no music. Kesma will sing. No, I won't. She will. Cam winked and took my hand, pulling me to him. Your frame, my king, I said, laughing so hard at calling him king, it was almost unintelligible. Who needs frames? He smirked as Kesma sang. Cam joined her and encouraged me to. Finally, something he isn't good at. Now, my queen, I'm bad at many things, he said, belting out the next line. What is going on in here? Sitek shouted above our song, silencing us. Facing him, I swallowed. My appearance would get me in trouble. I could only guess how much. Maybe he'd only lock me in my room again. Iliota. I nodded, my throat dry. Explain yourself. It's the Westfall Harvest Festival, I mumbled. Cam stepped between us. It was my idea. Sitek narrowed his eyes at me. Keep it down. I have business to tend to. Quietly, we played our games, then carved our gourds, and after dark we floated them down the lazy Ilonji River so we could see the candles inside. I know it was silly, but did you have fun? Kesma asked, haloed in moonlight. It was perfect. I can't explain what this meant to me. We have one more thing, Kesma nudged Cam. A gift fit for a queen. He placed a box painted with a Westfall landscape in my hands. You shouldn't have. But we did, Cam said. Kesma shook her head. A man of many words. Please accept it. We're happy you stayed. It's beautiful. Open it, Cam said. There's more? I unlatched the box, and inside was a red velvet journal. It's a memory box, Kesma added. I thanked them for being such wonderful friends, but Cam broke the intimate moment. I can't wait to get out of this costume. There's enough cloth here for 3. Why do they wear so much? Cam asked as he escorted me to my chambers. Visit the Westfall and you'll see. Snow is cold. Maybe if you agree to be my guide. Reaching my chambers, I leaned back against the door to say goodnight. We added some things. You don't have to keep them. He bowed and kissed my hands as if we had been out courting. Good night, my queen. Cam sauntered up the stairs while I turned the latch on my door, eager to see what else he and Kesma had put in the memory box. I bolted for my dressing room. What were you thinking? Sitek's voice boomed, stopping me cold. How long had he been there? He twisted his beard as I stammered out an explanation, focusing on my feet. Dressing like a woman while behaving like a child is indecent. He took an enormous step toward me. Look at me when I speak to you. I cranked my neck up to see him towering over me. If you want to be a woman, you will act the part.